As you know, when you pick up a heavy weight, you should do it by bending your knees like this, rather than by bending your back and pivoting at your hips like that. And this experiment should hopefully show why this is the case. Now, my model here represents a back, a head, and a hip joint. So the mop handle represents your spine and also your upper body. There's your head. The hip joint is represented by this pivot down here. And the most important thing is probably the string, because that represents the back muscles, and it's the tension in the back muscles which actually varies when you bend over. So I'm going to release this end, and I want you to notice that when I do, the line down here, which is the vertical below the centre of gravity of the upper body, there, and the head together, the distance between that and the pivot is going to change. So let's release the upper body now. Oh, you'll notice I'm wearing gloves because the forces in this string get quite big. I need to protect my hands. Now, ideally, the angle between the back muscles and the back should be 10 degrees and constant at 10 degrees. And you see it's very difficult to hold everything steady. And as I bring it further and further down, it gets more and more and more difficult to hold this. But look at the distance now. The line from here to the pivot is much greater, so the moment is much bigger. And because it's in equilibrium, the moment of that force down there and this force along there must be equal. And the angle, if I can keep it at 10 degrees, that hardly changes, but the other one does. Well, let's bring it back, give my hands a bit of a rest. So there we've got the simple one, where that moment, that distance multiplied by that force, remember, distance multiplied by weight of upper body and head. In this string, it's the distance between the pivot and the line of action of the back muscles, and the tension in the back muscles should be equal. And the nearer we get this to the vertical, the smaller that becomes. So really, the moral of all this is, when you're bending over, you should not bend your back, but you should bend your knees, because it's been proved that the tension in these back muscles, if you bend over at 60 degrees to the vertical, is something like 3 times your body weight.